Welcome to the Newtown Big Dreams podcast, an interview-style talk show that's your gateway to the fabulous and fascinating people who relocated to start a new life. Whether you're new to our podcast or your city, our fellow neighbors from across Canada, North America, and the entire English-speaking world share their stories of reaching new horizons and big dreams. So sit back and relax as we navigate in-depth and intimate conversations with entrepreneurs, thought leaders, executives, creatives, and anyone who can share their story about their Newtown big dreams. And now, here's your host, Luke J. Menkes.
So Meredith, thank you very much for coming today. And you came to Kelowna in 2005, is that right?
That's correct. I'm actually a Penticton resident, born and raised. Mm-hmm. So I've been in the Okanagan all of my life. But I went to Penn High in Penticton, graduated, and I did my first year at Okanagan College in Penticton. And then before UBC Okanagan actually came to town, I attended it in Kelowna, and it's last year, I guess, is OK College, if I've got the numbers right. And then it commuted over to UBC Okanagan very shortly after I moved to Kelowna. So that was the draw for me, was higher education, to be able to go and attend university. And I just wasn't quite ready to move away from home. And they had all their credits and courses that I was looking for entry level. So it worked out really well for me. And I ended up spending 6 years at UBC Okanagan. Prior to that, actually, I attended the Center for Arts and Technology as well. I still lived in Penticton, and I actually did the commute every day.
Wow.
For a year and a half while I was at Cato, doing an audio engineering diploma. But then I graduated from there, and that's when I decided I wanted to go to UBC Okanagan, and then I made the move. So.
And what did you take at UBCO?
So UBCO, at first I was completely lost, and I was doing general studies. And
so like liberal arts, like a bachelor arts.
Like just general BA, where I was just taking everything from, a mixed bag of, social studies to English language arts to language to actual art studies. But it wasn't until I think my third year that I declared my major, which was English language arts. But then in my fourth year, I had to take some other electives to round out my credits, and I ended up taking history for the first time. And I fell in love, and I actually ended up switching my major to history. So it actually took me 5 years to get my first degree, just so that I could switch. And then after that, I ended up going and getting my education degree from UBC Okanagan as well. So I did my teaching practicum in George Eliot Elementary in Winfield. And that's sort of how I got my start in the education industry.
Wow. Do you still teach at...
No, actually, you can't write this stuff. The year I graduated from UBCO with my education degree was the year of the big teacher strikes in 2010.
Right.
So no one was hiring upon me completing my program along with any of my other colleagues. And so I ended up starting to look at alternative job avenues that I might be able to pursue with an education degree. And then that's when I circled back to the Center for Arts and Technology. And they loved that I had, a big musical background, and I was actually an alumni from their school. And they ended up just starting me out as, contract instructor, teaching 1 or 2 classes a semester. Wow. I then moved into a full-time position as an employee, and then I was promoted to lead instructor. Wow. And then even at the end of it, I actually ended up acting as department head for about 6 months as well in the department. So that was a pretty big feather in my cap. Really, really enjoyed being part of that, creative community. And I thought that school was really, really a neat place to work. It's not too often that you get to teach sound effects for film and spend $250 on vegetables and produce and then go and smash it in the studio for 6 hours. Right. Or, one time we found a old piano, and we actually ended up bringing it into the studio, and we destroyed it.
Like
and we used
for the sound effects.
for a sound effects library for the students. And so we ended up, I think we'd ended up doing like 7 different mics just to be able to capture all the sound and resonance from all different angles.
Wow.
And it was, everything from just tipping it over the first time and just letting all the strings resonate out. We took the suspension pedal off and then we literally took a sledgehammer to it and just went to town. So, very interesting gig. I was there for about 6 years and I loved it. I taught everything from music production to music theory to recording arts to, again, that sound effects for film. So that was actually a pretty sweet teaching gig for sure. Yeah.
And so I just want to go back to the history. So what countries, like what part of the world were you specifying?
So ironically, it moved into European history, generally World War I and World War II. And ironically enough, I've never been to Europe. Travel is something that I'm pretty passionate about, but I still haven't made it over there yet. So it's one of those things that I will need to do. I have a bit of a history. My grandfather is from Holland, and he actually was taken to the munitions camps during World War II. So there's a bit of a personal interest in kind of understanding a little bit more of the climate and the history there. So that's where a lot of my history is European history. Obviously, Canadian history as well is huge, and then a little bit of South African and South American history too. So I kind of just speckled the map a little bit with some history. So
very cool.
Yeah, and all modern history, nothing like super ancient civilizations or anything like that. But I think that this can be applied to daily life, but we don't know where we're going if we don't know where we came from.
That's very true. Yeah, and I'm a student of history as well.
Okay.
And mostly Canadian, American, and a little bit of European.
Okay.
Not too much ancient history.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah.
Fascinating too, but just there's only so many credits that you can use. So
there's only so much time.
That's right.
Yeah, it's true. And they say history rhymes more than it repeats because situations are not absolutely identical. I mean, technology is different, culture is different, but it rhymes. So we can see patterns.
There's themes.
And we can see, repetitive patterns.
Yeah, it's a human theme, right?
Yeah. Very true. Very true. So what are you doing now?
Oh man, so what am I doing now? Okay, so fast forward after Cato, I had an opportunity to work with the Walt Disney Company in the Landmark building. So I literally went from Landmark 3 to Landmark 4. Big move. But yeah, I ended up working with the Walt Disney Company for about 1.5 years in their customer success team. So I was a manager there, managing a team in the call center. And I thought that there was some really, really great takeaways from that with regard to just corporate management strategies and techniques, which I absolutely loved. But I was admittedly missing that educational piece. I really loved being in a classroom and, just having an impact. Building as a teacher and building relationships as well with my students and just helping them with their goals. That's something that I find to be incredibly rewarding. And so all of a sudden, interestingly enough, the founder of Club Penguin, who then sold to Disney, he had left Walt Disney Company by the time I had started to work there. But he started a company called FreshGrade. And it was...
Remind me his name.
Lane Merrifield.
Right.
Yes, Lane Merrifield. And he's currently one of the dragons on Dragon's Den. He's a busy guy. He partnered with the city in building the Innovation Center downtown as well. But yeah, him and Steve Wandler actually founded FreshGrade.
Right.
And
we've had Steve on the show.
You have had Steve.
Yes.
He was someone I was going to nominate. So I'll take him off the list. But yeah, so... I saw that there was this opportunity and I went for it, and they just loved my educational background plus the relationship with Disney. There was a lot of folks that I already knew from the Walt Disney Company. So we just knew that it was going to be a good culture fit. And I would be able to move into a role that was more focused on education. So I bet your next question is going to be, what is FreshGrade?
Yeah, tell us about FreshGrade. So Steve told us about it. That was like almost a year ago.
Okay, so FreshGrade, we continue to evolve, but I would say that if I have my numbers correct, the company has existed, in its earliest stages, probably for about 7 years now. I would say that we are, more of a mature company in the last 3 to 4. But what we are is we started off as a digital portfolio platform for students. So the idea is that it's basically like a a Facebook for the classroom. And we've hinged that on privacy being the absolute number one touchstone that we have to support when it comes to children's safety. So even though I say it's like social media, it's not. It's completely locked down to just the parents and the students and the teachers. The data is completely housed in Canada. There's all this compliance stuff. So we've done a lot of things to make sure that we're doing this right with regard to security. But the end goal is that we are making learning visible and increasing parent engagement in the classroom. There's a lot of studies that show that parent engagement is actually one of the top 5 success indicators for kids in their education. And so the current education system sometimes struggles with that transparency and that visibility, right? The current model seems to be, interim reports and parent-teacher interview nights, and then all of a sudden, hey, surprise, your child's failing.
Right.
And teachers, and I know this all too well, time is a huge currency for us, and we don't always have the opportunity to call home or send an email to parents and be like, little Johnny is having difficulty here. So what FreshGrade does is it sends push notifications to parents' phones or their emails, and it's just, here's a status update of how your child has done.
And is it continuous?
It is ongoing. The teacher, it depends on how often the teacher is uploading, but here's the really cool part, is that students are also capable of uploading to their own portfolios. So there's this piece where all of a sudden students are becoming very engaged and owning their learning.
Right.
So it's just a win-win-win all the way around. FreshGrade is heavily used in the school district in ST23. We're quite heavily used in BC. We're in Alberta. We're in Ontario. We're in New Brunswick. We're in Texas. We're in Florida. We're in Georgia. And these are paid clients. We have free users all over the world. So I think we've really hit a niche, a need for 21st century learning. And if I was a teacher, if I had a classroom today, I would totally use FreshGrade. It's the other thing too is that, it's like social media. It needs to feel intuitive like social media as well. So it's the idea that it can be picked up very quickly and very easily.
Right.
So
the kids like using it. Do they know that their parents
they
are
do.
able to see?
That's a big piece of it. And so the students, they self-monitor as well, right? I mean, there's no classmates to impress here, right? By posting something cheeky or whatever, their classmates don't see it. It's not, Jacob can see, his friend's work or vice versa, or the parent can see the work of another student. It's completely siloed. So if a student were to upload something, the conversation is had when they're introduced to FreshGrade that it's only mom, dad, the teacher, and potentially a school principal that's going to see what you upload there. So, be intentional, be thoughtful with what you're uploading. And we do have kids in kindergarten uploading their work. They may not be capable of writing yet, but they sure know how to press record on a video for iPad.
Right.
And it's really powerful. So,
very cool.
Yeah.
So you mentioned free users and paid users.
Yes.
So what's the difference between the two?
So basically the way that FreshGrade works is free users is a teacher can go onto the FreshGrade website, they can sign up with their email address, and then they have to create their classes themselves. So they would actually have to source the student names, which wouldn't be challenging, but they are manually having to enter that into FreshGrade. So if they have 30 kids, they're manually entering in 30 names. If I'm a high school educator, I've got 30 kids times 7 teaching blocks of different subjects. You can start to see how this extrapolates. Now, add another layer of this to needing to have the parent contact information, including their names and emails, so you can send them invites into their accounts. It becomes a lot of work. So one of the things that we do with quote unquote paid or partnered clients is we actually integrate with the district's student information system. So this is the source of truth where student marks live, where their records live, and we only pull certain data. We're only given access to the very, very basics of it, and that is contact info and names, basically.
So like health info, you probably
No. We don't touch any of that stuff in the
Right.
district controls. They completely control what data they share with us. But the beauty of this is that they give us the basic fields, and all of a sudden classes and students and parent contact info just magically appears in their account. And so they don't have to worry about account setup. They get to focus on the learning.
Right.
Right. So we'll never charge teachers. The way we work is we partner with school districts in a licensing fee, but it's very exciting. It's growing, and we're actually just releasing a brand new version of FreshGrade. We're calling it FreshGrade Next. It's being launched this summer. Actually, currently we're rolling it out, and schools and districts are going to be benefiting from all the new features coming up this fall. So.
Can you tell us some of the features, or is it secret?
It's a little bit secret. There are a few really cool features that we are going to be getting into, and one of them, which we haven't quite released yet, but I will give a teaser that there will be actually an administrator view coming up. So
That's interesting.
Yes.
So this is a Kelowna-based company.
This is
and you're selling
Kelowna.
all across North America.
All across North America. One day, perhaps even the world. But, right now we are just focusing on North America. And it made sense that BC is where our stronghold is. That's because that's where we started.
Right.
And, SD23, they are, they're big friends of ours. Yeah. And it's
What's
cool
ST23?
That's this school district here.
Oh, ST23.
Yes, absolutely.
And is there a big difference in the software when it comes to district to district? So like if you're selling this to a Texas school district, do you have to change it quite a bit?
No, we don't. That's the thing, is that the way that the app has been designed is to be flexible. The thing about FreshGrade is that we are not here to push a pedagogical agenda. We just want to support learning overall. And if we can make that more efficient for teachers to communicate learning out, at the end of the day, we consider our job done. And so, that's just it. Is we aren't prescriptive in every single school district. I believe that we partner with. FreshGrade is not mandated either. Teacher autonomy is very important. Again, as a professional myself, I want to be able to have control over, to a certain degree, what tools I use and how I teach in my classrooms. So. FreshGrade, we are confident that we are providing a tool that is going to remove the need for teachers to have an app for this and an app for this and an app for that. And then it just gets really noisy. We're confident that not only are we going to be that all-in-one tool for teachers, we're going to consolidate their time and their efforts as well. And I think that the product just speaks for itself. It never will need to be mandated because people will naturally gravitate to it once they have a chance to play with it. So,
What do teachers love about it, and what do students love about it, and what do parents love about it?
Well, I'll start with the parents. Parents, they just love the visibility, right? I mean, that's just it. Is how cool is it to, be at work and get a push notification on your phone, which, by the way, you can shut off if you don't want them. But you can actually get a push notification saying there's a new video in your child's portfolio. And you can literally see the in-class presentation that your child has been, stressing about at home. Maybe you've even been helping them prep for it. The teacher, or maybe even another classmate, went ahead and recorded the video. The teacher uploaded it to the student portfolio, and it's there. And then the parent can play it back. They can show grandma and grandpa. They can provide comments. Like, that's the cool thing too, is that parents can actually comment back.
Interesting.
They can become part of the conversation. Right? Because learning doesn't happen in a vacuum. It doesn't just happen in a classroom. So that's the cool thing. So they love that. And again, there's no surprises. It's not like waiting until an interim report comes where all of a sudden, Jacob is struggling in literacy.
Yeah.
They can actually see it. They'll be able to see the exemplars of it in the portfolio when the teacher's uploading work. So that is really powerful for the parents.
That sounds really great. As a parent, it's always like, geez, I hope it's working out.
Yeah.
And then you forget about it.
Right.
And then you get an interim report or a parent-teacher interview.
Yes.
And, we have this issue.
Yeah.
Well, how long have you had this? Well, for 3 months.
Totally.
Just get a bit of an attitude problem.
Totally. And then that's the other thing too, is teachers, they can create homework assignments should they choose to use the gradebook component in FreshGrade. The entire assignment criteria is uploaded in FreshGrade as well. So everything from, when it's due to what's expected of the student. The teacher can even upload example work for both the parent and student to watch together. So say for an example, it's solving a mathematical equation. The teacher can take 5 minutes and actually draw solving for the mathematical equation, video it, upload it to the activity, and then all parents and students are able to see this source content and then work on it from home. And there's no more of this giving a homework assignment and the kid tucking it into their backpack and forgetting about it or going, I don't have any homework, because the parent goes, well, what's this?
Right.
I see Miss Brown just assigned this today. Yeah. So there's a great opportunity to help parents that want to engage more so, and partner with teachers in their child's success in the classroom. Right. So that's parents. I would say, what do students love about it the most is they also love having the parent engagement piece. Yeah. To be able to, kids, the conversation is parents will ask, like, they don't know what questions to ask. What did you do at school today, little Johnny?
Nothing,
right? Nothing. Yeah. And so it provides an opportunity to dialogue, right? So it provides probably more meaningful conversations around the dinner table, or when mom's picking, the kid up from school, or whatever that might be. So the child is benefiting from those interactions with their parents, and there's a sense of pride of ownership. Hey, mom, did you see what I uploaded into FreshGrade today? Yeah. For those older students, like, again, we are a K to 12, so kindergarten to grade 12 platform, and we're actually even being piloted at the post-secondary level. UBC Okanagan is actually using FreshGrade, and I had the opportunity to go back to the education department and set them up with it, which was super cool, going back to the old stomping grounds. But that's beside the point. More senior students, they get the opportunity to curate their own portfolios for admission considerations for post-secondary education. The other thing that's a big challenge today, and we've had think tanks with with deans from universities all over North America. Most notably, was it last year or the year before? I was at a think tank with SFU, UBCO, and Simon Fraser, and the deans were saying admissions is such a challenge because it's all numbers based. GPA, and we have thousands of students literally applying, and we don't have any physical, tangible, evidence of student, passion or interests or, characteristics, and whether they'd be a good fit for the program. And so there's a real appetite for a portfolio to go along with the GPA and the numerical scores, if you will.
Right. So the student could curate that.
Yes.
And they could get some help from, do you still have guidance counselors in
yes.
high school?
Yeah,
and
absolutely. Yeah, admission counselors.
Say, this is what a SFU was looking for. Let's put this together.
Let's put it together. And so that's just it is, again, there's that sense of pride of ownership. Like, I've done this. I select my best work based on, the criteria for the admissions for post-secondary. So it's very empowering, I would say, for students, and again, to show progress over time as well, right? Yeah. If we were to use something, being again a music geek that I am, if I was teaching music, like, how cool would it be to record a kid playing their instrument for the very first time and say, play a B flat major scale, and it'd be a hot mess where your ears are bleeding by the end of it. But then to record a video at the end of the year and then play them side by side. There's no text required. There's no slip. Yeah. There's no, Jacob did a good job. The video in itself is going to speak thousands and thousands of words, right? So to be able to show tangible evidence of learning over time is really powerful. And then I guess to round it out, what do teachers love most about FreshGrade is, again, it's this sense of community that is built, between parents and students. But the big thing is time. I would probably say is, yes, you are going to invest a little bit of time learning how FreshGrade works. But the idea is that when it comes to report card writing, we have certain school districts that aren't even doing report cards per se anymore. Really? They are literally entering the bare requirements into their student information system. So whether that be score or whether that be, a performance indicator like meeting expectations for each subject area or course, or if it's high school, it's typically like percentage based or letter grade based. But they're literally leaving in the comments, see FreshGrade. And everything else is in there because you've been collecting fantastic evidence of learning throughout the year. Yeah. And it gives a really good snapshot, not only in time and in months, but where are they at today? And that's where education is shifting, is it's not necessarily grades are, averaged over the course of a year, because it's not necessarily fair to, have a student that was at below grade reading level be, penalized marks wise because they were at a lower average, but then they've pulled their grades up so that they are at reading level at the end of the year. If you average that, that's actually going to not be representative of where they are now.
That's good.
Which is the important part.
Very good point.
So I think that when it comes to time is a big thing. It's a huge time saver. The ability to get students to, own their own learning and, basically become sort of like the facilitator as opposed to, the sage on the stage where they're the ones that are the talking heads and having to, basically, run a classroom. You're starting to put the onus back on the students. And again, this can be done at a very young age. And the sooner a child is introduced to digital technology in the classroom, the more it becomes just sort of part of the classroom management, just like how you go for recess to go put your shoes on. It just becomes second nature for part of your classroom management. So time saving. And again, that's not just me saying it. I mean, I know that I'm an employee of FreshGrade, but you can check out our Twitter feed and you'll see teachers just singing our praises all the time about those pieces. So it's really powerful. And my role in FreshGrade is I get to travel around and teach teachers how to use FreshGrade.
I see. So is this pre-sale or post-sale?
Post-sale.
So
Almost always post-sale.
The district's made a decision to adopt it.
Yeah.
And then you have to
help them put it together. Sometimes we have districts where they did have a free user base and then it was like, wow, what's this cool thing that you guys are doing and can we make it better for you? Or you have leaders come in and say, how can we help support you as the teachers? Well, there's this option to integrate with the student information system. But quite often it's just part of the aftercare. So in sales is to, bring me in and, I'll do a full day workshop. I'll look at specific use cases. What is it that they're wanting to achieve? What is it about FreshGrade that really drew them to us? And then how can we really maximize on that? So my training when I come in and teach teachers is a combination of technical training and pedagogy based on their requirements. Again, we're not here to push an agenda.
Right.
What is it that you're wanting to achieve? And here are some suggested workflows in the app that I can give you that is going to achieve that outcome, achieve that purpose.
Tell us what pedagogy means. I know what it means, but most of our listeners probably don't.
So pedagogy is basically the philosophical application of teaching. How does one teach? How does one assess that someone has actually learned something? And it's just as wide as, I would say, in many ways, politics. Lots of different thoughts on that. And so, pedagogy...
It's basically the philosophy of the teaching.
It's philosophy of
system.
Teaching. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And again, as I said, that's why we are never prescriptive.
Right.
We are a agnostic tool that can be used for whatever goals that you're wanting to achieve. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you mentioned you're doing some pilot projects with post-secondary.
Yes.
How is it going to be different? So I'm imagining parents are maybe a little less involved.
Mm-hmm.
Like when my daughter goes to university, I still want to know what she's doing. So that's cool. But it's not like mandatory. Mm-hmm. Like she's not going to fall apart if I don't check her homework.
Yeah.
So what is, how is it going to be different when it comes to post-secondary?
So the model that we have right now actually at UBCO is it's actually the education department. The student teachers are actually using FreshGrade for their portfolios for their student teaching in classrooms.
Right.
So they are actually uploading. So basically what happens is the practicum lead, so whoever is overseeing the practicum for those set of students, for that cohort of education students, they will set up FreshGrade with basically buckets of different areas of competencies that they would like the student teacher to demonstrate. So for an example, professionalism would be one. And then throughout the year, that student teacher would upload examples, whether it be like a video diary kind of style, like this is what happened today in my class and this is how I handled it, all the way down to, here's a written example of a discipline letter that I've sent home to a kid. Like it's just, it's so much more rich right? Just the evidence to be able to use different media types to support and defend your position on something is really, really powerful.
Yeah.
So in that case, it's basically the Faculty of Education sort of sets up the portfolios for the year and then just sort of says go.
Right.
And then it's up to the students to populate the content, and then they can kind of check in. The faculty advisors just sort of check in and, assess basically at the end of the year for the practicum report.
So here's how I handle stressful situations.
Totally.
Here's how I
difficult
handle
conversations. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Really.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It's we're kind of, I feel like we've blown the lid off of something here. It's just, we're using technology that's been available to us for a really, really long time. Relatively a really long time, I guess I should say, with regard to technology, but it's never really been applied to an educational setting like this. So
how many people in your company now?
Oh, geez. Okay. So we have some contractors that are like out in Texas and in Ontario. And then we have an office, obviously here. It's our main office in the Innovation Building. And then we also have an office in Vancouver. So I would say that we're probably around 50 strong now. Fluctuates.
And, about half that here? Or a little
more. I would say 3/4.
Most are here.
I would say 3/4.
Yeah.
3/4 are here. So
nice. And how long have you been?
I've been with FreshGrade for 3.5 years now.
Wow. So you must love it.
Yeah. I believe in it too. Like that's just it is. It's being a teacher. If I had something like this in my classroom, it would have been fantastic. And I just see impact. It's meaningful. It's meaningful work. Yeah. And it's really helping enrich people's lives. Again, whether you're a parent, student, or teacher, and ultimately, kids, they're the ones that are going to be the next generation, and we need them to be successful. So, yeah. I'm
That's
100% behind it for sure.
You seem a little bit like me in the sense that you have so many interests in so many different fields. And if you stuck with something for 3.5 years, it means you really love it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so do you travel around BC and beyond or just in BC?
So I've been as far as Georgia. Athens, Georgia, for conferences.
That's where R.E.M. is from.
Oh, there you go. Yes. So
that's the only reason I know
facts.
Athens, Georgia is R.E.M.
Fun facts. I've been to Austin, Texas, but I mean, all over Canada. I mean, I've been to Ontario 2 times. I've been to Alberta multiple times, all over BC for sure. But like coming up in about 2 weeks here, I'm going on a 3-week-long road trip where I'm literally not going home. So I'm going to the Yukon for about a week. Then I'm going straight over to Alberta and kind of doing like a north-south kind of tour there, and then going straight from Alberta to Ontario and spending a week out there. And I find that for me, when I consider a place of work, there needs to be benefits. Obviously, I want to be compensated for my time and everything like that too. But, what makes me stay is there's a few things about FreshGrade, and it kind of comes down to my sort of personal philosophy in just living well and being happy. And FreshGrade is one component that's really allowed for me to do that. In my bio, I've said that mental health is something I'm very passionate about. I've had my struggles with it in the past, and FreshGrade has been incredibly accommodating and supportive of that. So that's one big thing, is to work for an employer that cares. Nice. Like actually sees you as a human being and builds a relationship with you. So there's trust there, which is really cool. So there's that, but then there's other work perks. Like when I travel, they're fine with me tacking on a weekend. So for an example, when I go to the Yukon, I'm done work on Thursday. They don't care when I fly back. Like, unless there's a big price discrepancy, and as long as I'm back for work on Monday for regular duties, if I want to pay to stay in a hotel and, keep the rental car and whatever and tack on a weekend, come back on Sunday instead of coming back on Thursday. You want to use a vacation day on Friday? Cool. Stay in the Yukon for 3 days.
So what were you doing in the Yukon?
So I'm going to be in Whitehorse for training, but then on the weekend, I'm actually driving up to Dawson City. And this is going to allow for me to indulge in both my history, kind of background, but also my new hobby of gold panning. I picked that up.
That was a gold mining town.
Yes.
Right?
That's actually where the gold rush started.
Wow.
So I'm actually going to make the 6-hour drive. I'm going to go up to Dawson City. I'm going to go pan in the original creek where the first gold nugget was found that started it all. I think I might even do the sourdough whiskey cocktail.
What's that?
You don't know what that is?
No.
It's literally, there's a human toe, a pickled human toe that gets poured into a cocktail.
And how did they obtain this human toe?
It's actually, I just read, it's a new one. Somebody donated it.
Someone donated it?
I don't know whether they were deceased or whether they actually...
Is it one toe per drink, or do they
recycle
it?
It's recycled. And so the idea is that they pour you a cocktail and they put the toe in it, and then you have to shoot it and you have to let it touch your lips.
And then you put it back.
And then you put it, and so the cycle continues.
How do you feel about that? Are you excited? Are you nervous?
Both, but I feel like I have to. Like, that is like one of the most ultimate Canadianisms. Like, I remember hearing about this when I was a kid and just being so grossed out. And
Tell me one more time, because I'm going to look this up.
Yeah,
I never heard of it.
I think it's called the sourdough cocktail or sourdough whiskey cocktail, and it's in Dawson City. There's a particular, I can't remember what the name of the hotel is, but it's in a hotel. I'm going to seek it out. I'm going to do it. But yeah, and I mean, again, just circling back, like I've found a job that grants me these experiences that I would otherwise never pursue.
Yeah.
Even 2 weeks ago, I was in Spokane for the week for a conference out there. And I squeezed every minute I could. If I wasn't in the conference, I was around. I was walking around. I was checking things out, vintage shops, food, like as much as I could take in during my quote unquote off hours. I was taking in the sights and sounds of Spokane, which I probably, I'd never really had interest in going to Spokane before, but it was a really cool spot.
So you make the most of it.
I do.
And I know you love travel.
Yes.
You're going to Africa this fall?
I am going
and
to
that's
Africa.
not for work, I'm guessing.
This is a personal trip. Yes,
trip.
this is a personal trip.
Have you been to Africa before?
Never.
Africa is massive.
Yes.
Do you have a
South. I'm going to South
preference?
Africa. I'm going to be spending 2 weeks at a lion sanctuary, volunteering with lions. So that's going to be a pretty cool experience, and I'm paying to do hard labor, so they've got it figured out there really well. But then after that, I'm doing a 2-week long overland truck tour through South Africa, east through Swaziland and over to Mozambique, where my other kind of bucket list goal thing for Africa is to snorkel with whale sharks. And I'm actually going to be there on the Indian Ocean right when they're doing their migration. So not only will I probably see a whale shark, I will probably see several. So
are they dangerous to humans?
No, they're not. They're not the flesh eating. I believe that they just eat like plankton and stuff, right? So yeah, no, they're good. They're good. It's not quite like diving with the great whites at the tip of South Africa,
right?
It's not that.
They use cages for
They do. So I'm just looking at this as I've saved up for it. It's intentionally going to be a trip of a lifetime. Not the trip of a lifetime. There will be more, but it's intended to be a very cool, personal experience and potentially even a spiritual one. So I'm very, very excited about that. And it's sort of what, it's still ways off. It's in November. And right now we're in July. So it doesn't quite feel real yet, but I think as it starts to get cold out and
it'll come up fast.
My duties at FreshGrade start to taper off because I also had to time it around, when I'm needed. And, schools are winding down for Christmas. So it's kind of a good time for me to go because there's not a big demand for training.
Yeah.
But, so
sounds like so much fun. Could you see yourself, bit of a personal question, but could you see yourself being a writer in the future?
You know what? Yes, I think I could. I definitely could. It's, as you said, you're kind of a jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah. Because you're passionate about history and travel.
And travel, totally.
And education.
Yes, I know.
Things kind of... And you're having so many great experiences with the travel.
Yeah.
It just occurred to me.
Even just to be like a blog, like a travel blog reader.
Yeah.
Just like, because I love food. I'm so passionate about food and wine and everything else. Like I guess just for me, I see wonder in everything. I've always managed, that's not fair, not always, but in the last couple of years, I've really made some major positive changes in my life. And I'm so grateful, and I have a sense of play and curiosity, and it's yeah. And I mean, Kelowna, again, circling back to Kelowna, this is a great playground to be curious and to be adventurous because there are so many things to do. You know, like I said, the gold panning being one, like just the history of the gold rush and being on the creek and just being out in nature. There's something also very meditative about the white noise of the creek, which I find to be great. It's an awesome way to pass, you know, hours by. And it's kind of like, again, there's that treasure hunting element. You know, I've never been into gambling because I can't afford to, but I sure can gamble with my time and spend a little more time hoping to maybe find a little more gold.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I think it's a great story, and I really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
And I love the concept of FreshGrade. I'm hearing stories of tech companies that are based in Kelowna, but they have a reach across North America.
Yes.
And that you're traveling, you know, representative. It's a really cool thing. And I think Kelowna is a place where it's just the best place to live because we can travel and we can do all these things. Oh
yeah. And I mean, that's just it from the travel that I have done. We are spoiled.
Yeah.
Like,
so spoiled.
I'm almost hesitant for you to even publish this podcast anymore because we don't want the word to get out. You can't be telling people about Kelowna because it's special, right? It's just for us.
I know why. You're the 156th person that I've interviewed, and it's endless. I mean, there's so many amazing stories.
Of course, absolutely. I mean, it's a really, really cool place.
I don't think I'll run it. We don't need any more population. I'm not going to run it.
I know,
people
that's
to
right.
talk to.
You could just pull from the existing pool.
Exactly.
Totally, it's great.
So, Meredith,
yes,
who would you like to nominate? Besides Steve, and I'd love to have him back.
Totally.
Many people, you know,
totally. Well, I'm thinking who I would like to nominate is Kelowna resident Tate McGuire. Okay. And so Tate is a friend of mine that I, you know, met basically last year, and he is who we could call the ringleader of the Kinshira performance troupe here in Kelowna. So they are basically a circus performance art group where they do everything from aerial acrobatics to fire dancing to, theater productions. Mm-hmm. They host many different events around Kelowna, and he's just an incredible creative mind, and him and the rest of the Kinshira team very warmly welcomed me into the fold, I would say last fall. And, that's how I got started into aerial hoops as well. So they're a very, very cool bunch of folks, super creative, and nice. I think that he would be very engaging for you on your show. And again, the entire Kinshira team is very, very vibrant in the arts community, and performance community here.
Do you perform with them?
I'm working up to it.
So what's an aerial hoop?
So an aerial hoop, it's a circus. It's a circus apparatus, sort of like if you can envision like the trapeze or whatever, but it's literally a metal ring that is suspended from a rig or ceiling, and one or more performers get into it and they do different moves and acrobatics in it, and it can be actually quite beautiful and look like a dance. It's usually done to music, and it's something that I actually saw probably about 10 or 15 years ago, and I actually had negative self-talk where I'm like, you could never do something like that. But as I said, I've made some changes in my life, and no isn't really in my vocabulary anymore. And I went for it, and I've now made this amazing group of friends. And that's just it. Is when I'm ready, and I will be eventually. But they want me to perform. So that's I am slowly working up to it. But in the meantime, I've actually installed a hoop in my own home, so I'm able to kind of play and practice on it in my own time too. But
super cool.
But I think Tate would have a lot of cool things to talk about with you. Definitely. And to just show a different perspective of Kelowna for sure.
Definitely. Meredith, thanks again for your time. I've really super enjoyed this conversation.
Awesome. Good. Well, I did too. Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Newtown Big Dreams podcast with your host, Luke Menkes, and his authentic guests. And we love our listeners and hope you subscribe now to learn more about the amazing journeys of our incredible guests who relocated to find a new town, big dreams. And remember, make your dreams big.